shoot in anger, they'll miss. They'll waste the cartridges.
Ready for the video?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Conscious practice. What's conscious? This is V and
Afif.
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
Is anger needed to be effective?
My name is V. I'm an aspiring yogi, love all things meditation, yoga, and wisdom based. Super grateful to have Afif here on the show. Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Afif. I'm a graduating mechanical engineering student, and I'm Indian, American, and Muslim.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Afif. Have you heard of a guy named Sadhguru before?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of him.
What do you know about him so far?
Well, I know that he's a little bit, well, I guess the best way to define him is kind of as a spiritual leader, kind of someone who really encourages you to re-examine everything that we do in our daily lives in a very different lens.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And with that,
And let's get into the video.
We often talk about anger management, anger control, but if our soldiers don't show their anger, how are they going to fight wars at the border?
If they shoot in anger, they'll miss. They'll waste the cartridges. To shoot, you must be in a very even, balanced, equanimous mind, otherwise you cannot shoot. You don't have to be angry to shoot. If you're angry and shoot, you are not a soldier, you're a vandal. A soldier is standing up for a cause. He's not shooting because of his personal enmity with somebody. Yes, he's standing up for a nation. He's not standing up for his personal anger or enmity with somebody. So, if you want to shoot straight, you try and see. They can take you to the range today. You try and see. If you want to shoot, one thing that is necessary is you have to be balanced. Even if you have to… You know, even in a golf game it's called shooting, score. If you want to shoot straight, you got to be level-headed, otherwise you're not going to shoot straight. This is especially so with a bullet because of the velocity and even the smallest variation, a micromillimeter variation will take it somewhere else. In many ways, United States, in their conflicts, probably of all the nations, US Army has used snipers extensively, like no other country probably. It's a brutal game, but if you're angry, you will never shoot straight. You're shooting half a mile away, you're not going to shoot straight for sure. So, soldier need not be angry. That's why I told you, Krishna chose to give the Gita in the battlefield. He's talking about equanimity, not anger. Because if you want to win the war, you must be stable. Angry people will get killed. Please don't react to what I say, but consider this. Armed forces, especially those who are in active service, who every day face situations which is life and death in some way. I know Indian Army is not so much so, but still it is there, but I've seen how the US Army trains. They're training them to, come on, we'll do this to them, all kinds of vulgar words and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. This is how we've been pepping up the armies. But I feel the elite forces everywhere in the world are not trained like that. They're trained to be very, very equanimous, to be focused, to be meditative, to not react, but to respond according to the situation. This element should be brought into the forces in a big way at the fundamental basic training, that you only respond, you don't react. This will make a world of difference in the way you operate. Whether it's with your family or with the business outside or with the actual job that you're doing, wherever it is. Your essential nature of the human being is this, which no other animal is capable of, is we don't have to instinctively react. We can respond consciously. This is where we can employ our intelligence. Otherwise, there is no room for intelligence. The only reason why we are dominating this world is because of our intelligence, not because of our physical strength. If we do not exercise what is strongest in us, then we're losing out big time. So, we must shift every human being, not just a soldier, every human being, from a state of compulsive reaction to your conscious response. This is my fundamental goal with every human being. If only human beings were consciously responding, they would do the best, isn't it? To the best of their intelligence and capability.
So Fif, what are your first reactions to this video?
I think it is definitely very, very interesting. I like that he weaved in both the Indian and the American military. I think that's the thing that really struck out to me, partly because a lot of my mom's side of the family was in the Indian military, and a lot of my close friends here in America are or served in the American military, and a lot of my father's friends as well. So it's very interesting, not only, of course, the contents of the video, what he discussed and his key points, but also, to me, you're right, he's really right about some of the differences in training that they really go through and the mindset. I really think it's an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that first response. Really, not even a reaction from your side. I think it was a great response. So thank you for sharing. And I agree with you quite extensively there. I really loved how he emphasized that you don't really need to be angry to fight, right? It goes back to what we've actually talked about outside of this, which is it's not about the what you do, because in situations like war, let's just say your country is in battle and you have to fight for whatever reason, you can't really, as a single man, maybe change the conflict, and maybe it's possible. I definitely would encourage, I don't know much about the exact history, and I know Gandhi has become relatively controversial-ish, but let's say the whole non-violence route is definitely, I think, great. But there are situations where you can't always do that, right? You have to maybe fight. And in that particular situation, it's about how you're doing it, right? Not the what. And usually people associate fighting with anger and being mad and upset, and that fuels their emotions, and that emotions fuels their actions. But it's not even an action, it's more of a reaction at that point, right? So how did you feel about his stance on anger itself, how it can actually take away from your ultimate goal?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So to kind of talk to that, he mentioned the elite kind of forces training differently. And now, obviously, I'm no Navy SEAL, as you can imagine. But in whatever I've read about them, whatever I've researched, whatever I've seen kind of on YouTube, those inspirational talks, the first thing that they're taught is control in every situation, right? Like one of their trainings is they bind their hands and their legs and they throw them into a pool. And their goal is, with whatever breath that they have, keeping themselves calm, composed, they have to break out of those bindings and then resurface, right? Or find a way to swim while in these bindings, right? And that's not something you can do in anger, right? In fact, anybody part of a diving team or a swimming team will tell you that panic or any form of disarray is going to cause you to sink, right? So you got to be in control, you got to be composed, you got to be focused. So I really agree with that part. It makes a lot of sense for me, even just from a logical standpoint, emotions aside.
100%. Love the example you provided, which was centered around the Navy SEALs. And I know I'm also no Navy SEAL here, but I've heard about that too. And it's very extreme, right? Very extreme, but at the same time, it's valid. I mean, in those extreme situations, you really need to be very consciously responsive, not unconsciously or compulsively reactive. Otherwise, you will fall into your emotions and get trapped compulsively or impulsively, that is, and it'll be the demise of you. So ultimately, you got to be as conscious, ultimately. And I want to also add in this, which is something we've talked about too off camera, and it's the idea that things like anger or even happiness, to an extent, ultimately from what I've heard from Sadhguru himself, all of it, if not most of it, should ultimately come from you. You should be the one in charge of your emotions. And let me ask you this question, right? Regardless of who is triggering it, are your emotions happening inside you or outside you?
This is a great question. I think that your emotions can sometimes manifest in different ways.
Where is it usually being experienced, though? Are you experienced on the outside or the inside?
For me personally, or like just in general?
Let's say in general, but maybe personally too.
I feel like a lot of the times, your emotions are internal, right? Even if something happens to you externally, right, you're thinking about how that impacts you internally, and that feeling kind of comes from within, right? If someone, does something that you don't like, yes, it's an outward action, but it's reflected kind of upon your inner self. You feel it inside, right? And then it kind of translates out of your body.
Exactly. So that's pretty much the direction I'm going here, which is ultimately your experience itself is a very internal thing. And as a result of that, whether it's emotions, thoughts, blissfulness, happiness, sadness, anger, it's all an internal thing. And so being really conscious, again, keyword conscious, about your inner state. I mean, science has actually proven this too, that when you're in states of anger and, let's say, sadness and anxiousness, there's actual biomarkers that are being affected in a negative way, right? Even just things like blood pressure go up and it's not good for you. So there's a clear, obvious where you should be, at least in terms of most states of mind. I know we're not perfect, we're not enlightened per se, but we know what is optimal for health and what is not. And now when you give that internal control up to someone on the external, it's a very almost slave-like situation, because now you're allowing people to dictate how you feel on the inside. It's your internal state. Why should someone else dictate how you feel? So I wanted to share that, and just thank you so much for taking your time here, Afif. Has some really great perspectives, also a good friend of mine, so I thank you all also for watching this video with us. Would also love to hear your thoughts on what I've shared, what Afif has shared, even what Sadhguru has shared. It's an open platform here, open discussion. Let us know in the comments down below. Also, if you have any other video requests or topics or spiritual masters or teachers or gurus you want to watch and react to, also comment down below. With that, make this a great day. Take it joyfully and stay conscious. Thank you so much, if you did great.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate you.